Yeah.
Is everyone back?
Yes.
Williams is there. Mr. Michael. Is the deputy out there? See, I think Neil's at lunch, so we're going to have to substitute. Do you mind sticking your head out there and see if...
Judge, I'm not going to address this today or tomorrow regarding one of the jurors, but juror number 9-3, when he walked in, he looked at Mr. Dippolito and said, BS, and jurors 9-2 and 9-4 heard it. There's someone in the court who didn't notice back there.
Well, 9-2 says they know something about the case anyway, so, okay, say 9-2, and who else heard it, you think?
And 9-3 was one who actually made the statement, and 9-2 and 9-4 were on either side.
Yeah, it may be a moot point anyway, because they both...
I'm just bringing paperwork.
Yeah.
Mr. Dippolito, when he walked in initially, and said BS.
Okay. All right, so that's 9-2, 9-3 said it, 9-2 and 9-4 were present.
You're right, it might be a move one, we'll see.
All three of them indicated they have knowledge of the case, so let's find out what they say. And it may be something we have to explore. It may be something that takes care of itself.
Yeah, sure.
There's a commotion in another courtroom, so everybody went in there.
Oh, an emergency?
Yeah, they know judge, or they said Neil's around.
Somebody acting up in another courtroom?
Yeah, no, actually, it's in the hallway now, so they're out there now with the jurors.
As long as it's not our jurors.
No, it's not our juror.
He's in my courtroom. Yeah. I think Johnson has something going on too. And well, actually, so does Fuhrer. I think we're all in session.
Judge, we just had an issue. The state is not a big issue, but
Can I get somebody from the state? here, somebody else comes in, I'll instruct, I don't know who else will be coming in, but we'll instruct. Or you can just tell us what to do.
Appreciate it.
So are we seriously waiting because there was an altercation in the hall? Is that
There was an altercation in all.
one of the other courtrooms? Yeah, there was. When that happens, all the deputies go there automatically. All right, everyone stay. I'm going to step off and see if I can't expedite this. Fight in the women's room on the 7th floor or something. I don't think it takes every deputy in the courthouse to take care of it. We're ready to proceed. Are you going to help me? Are you here?
I heard them call for somebody.
I need somebody. I got to start. Do you know what the protocol is?
Are you bringing the jury back in?
One at a time, we're bringing them in. We're doing individual interviews.
Okay. Go the jury.
Yeah, Neil made arrangements before he went for lunch with someone. I don't know what the deal is.
10 people.
Okay, here's the protocol. We're on the 5th row. You got the seating chart there, the 5th row. We're going to bring in, let's see, we start with juror 5-2, and here's what they do, Deputy.
Yes, sir.
They come in and they go to that microphone. We're going to have some individual conversations with them. We send them out, we bring them in one by one, okay? So the first one I need in is juror 5-2, Velos. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that correctly, but 5-2.
I'm upset with it already. I've given up. Yeah. I get the weird there when it starts even though it's stuck in my back apartment. gonna be like, it's gonna be like, beard shoes, and it's gonna be like.
Is it Ms. Veloz? Right here at this microphone is fine, ma'am. Counsel, you may be seated. You indicated that you might know something about the case, is that correct?
Yes,
Can you tell me what you believe you know about the case?
just what I saw on the news a few years ago.
A few years ago, okay. Let me just deal with this first. Have you seen anything recently in the news about the case?
No,
All right, so you saw something in the news a few years ago. Can you tell me what you saw?
I saw the cops telling her the news about her husband was dead, and she was like crying, showing like desperation, like she didn't know anything about the case, and that's what I saw on TV. That was a trap, that she was led to believe that she was not knowing anything about, that she was receiving the news about, that
Okay.
her husband died. That's what I saw on TV.
Okay, do you recall seeing anything else on TV other than what you've just told me?
No,
Okay. Have you reached any conclusions about the case based on what you saw?
my personal opinion,
Yes.
yes,
Okay, what conclusion have you reached?
that she planned, she's guilty for, and
All right, so you've reached...
she decided the fate of her husband, ex-husband, and she was faking.
Okay. Based on what you saw then, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, so if I don't get this right, you tell me, Judge, I'm not right. Just tell me. What I hear you saying is you've already reached the conclusion based on what you saw that she's guilty. Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay. Counsel, any questions? Okay. Ma'am, we're going to go ahead and excuse you from jury service in this case. You do not have to come back. Please don't discuss anything with the other potential jurors. You just turn your juror badge in on the first floor.
thank you.
ma'am.
Thank you.
5-3, Deputy. Ms. Sheffer, if you could just step right up to that microphone right there we have kind of standing there. Counsel, you may be seated. You actually, I think, raised your hand to two questions. One, you believe you know something about the case. Also, you have a hardship. Let me deal first with what you think you know about the case. What do you believe you know about the case?
Well, actually, Your Honor, I'm very surprised in 2016 that we're still discussing the case. It was all over the TV. You couldn't help but watch it. And since I haven't heard anything else, it was actually quite apparent to me that I believed that they settled it and that the defendant was found guilty.
Okay, so you believe that the case was already resolved and the defendant had been found guilty.
Yes.
What do you base that on? Did you hear something, read something?
Actually, everything was on the TV.
Okay.
And probably an interview or something.
All right.
It's kind of vague now, 7 years later.
Right. Have you reached any conclusions about whether Ms. Dippolito is guilty or not?
As of today, no.
Okay. Based on anything that you've heard, let me just kind of rephrase the question. You indicated you had heard or you thought she had already been found guilty. What do you base that on?
I have some sort of memory about the man who who had the contract out on him, and that they had evidence or knowledge or a tape or something
Okay.
of her.
And what I'm kind of getting at, you indicated you thought she'd already been found guilty. Is that something you believe you heard in the news?
Yes.
Okay. Counsel? Any questions?
No question.
Agreed? Okay. We're going to go ahead and release you from jury service in this case. You're not going to have to come back tomorrow or any other time at this point. You just have to turn your juror badge in on the first floor where you started. Just don't discuss anything with the other potential jurors on the way out.
Of course not.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
No. 5-2 is excused, 5-3 is excused. 5-4, ma'am? Miss Allen, you can just come right to that microphone right there if you would. Counsel, you may be seated. Miss Allen, I think you indicated that you thought you might know something about the case. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And can you tell me what you believe you know about the case?
Everything. I watch the news all day long.
Okay, so you've watched the news.
News fanatic.
Oh, you're a news fanatic.
Yes,
okay.
sir.
All right. So have you seen or heard anything about the case recently?
Yes.
And have you heard or read something about the case in the past?
Yes.
Okay. Tell me specifically what you recall about the case.
Everything.
Everything. All right.
I could tell you everything from everything that ever was said on the news.
Okay. So let me just kind of jump ahead a little bit. Based on everything that you have seen on the news, have you reached any conclusions about the case?
Yes.
Okay. And what conclusions are those?
I feel that everything that I heard on the news was true.
Okay. So in terms of, let me just phrase the question this way.
Okay.
Have you reached conclusions about whether at this time you believe Ms. Dippolito is guilty or not guilty?
I believe she's guilty.
Okay, you've already reached that conclusion.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you for your disclosure. Counsel, any questions? Okay. Ma'am, we're going to release you from jury service in this case. You will not have to come back.
Okay.
Just go to the first floor, turn your juror badge in. Please don't discuss anything about this case with any of the other potential jurors, but you're excused with our
I will
thanks.
not, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Five, 6. No, wait a minute. 5-6 is 5-6 coming back? 5-5 I don't think is out there.
Yeah, 5-5 is just,
No, that was she knew 8-10.
10 from work. 5-6 is up.
you may not have released her. I didn't put a check box on her.
Yeah, I released her, I believe. 5-6 I don't believe is out there.
No, 5-6 is up.
Let's just see if she's here and just release her.
Yeah, I'll just make sure she didn't. I didn't have her down as knowing anything about the case. That's the
Right, but we
thing.
didn't, she's not checked for one of the people that was sent home.
Yeah, what I'm concerned about is 5-6 still out there because I've got a note next to her. She needs to be spoken to. Let's try 5. Let's try 5-5 first. Let's see if 5-5 is out there. I think I may have juxtaposed something between 5-5 and 5-6. I'm concerned about that.
Yeah, we have 5-6 as knowing about the case, but 5-5 we don't. She just.
I know, and the problem is I got my signals mixed on those two, and so. Okay. I'm going to try calling you Denise. Is that okay? I don't think you raised your hand as knowing anything about the case. Is that correct?
I think I remember something.
Oh, well, it's good we have you in here then.
Yes.
What do you think you remember?
I just remember hearing the name,
Okay. Do you know where you heard the name?
probably on TV.
Okay. Do you remember anything other than hearing the name? Do you remember anything more specific?
Not really, no,
Did you hear something on the TV recently or in the past?
in the past.
In the past. Have you heard anything recently or read anything,
No.
seen anything recently? Okay. Have you reached any opinions about the case based on what you have heard?
Nope,
Have you reached any conclusions concerning the guilt or innocence of Ms. Dippolito at this time?
nope,
Okay. Is there anything about what you heard before which in any way would preclude you from deciding this case based on the evidence and only the evidence is presented here?
no,
And so can you listen to the evidence in this case, decide the case based on the evidence in the law, and instruct you on setting aside anything you may have heard about the case?
yes.
Questions from either side? Okay. Ma'am, what we're going to do is, we're going to let you go right now. We're not going to bring you back tomorrow because we're a little bit behind in our schedule. So we're going to ask you to come back Monday at 9:30. And what you do is when you get here at 9:30 on Monday, you go to the jury assembly room on the first floor. They'll bring you up when we're ready for you, okay? Okay, thank you, ma'am. Five, six. When I was calling out names to release people, did I release her this morning? Okay.
We missed her. I think we missed her. I don't think they've had any.
Juror
information.
5-6.
Just all those.
We're good, as long as 5-6 is here. All right, Ms. Guerrero, right there, that you can stand next to that mic, right? There's a stand-up mic. It's probably, as counsel may be seated, it's probably just easier just to stand right there. I think you indicated you thought you might know something about the case?
Well, I remember back at the time of the arrest, I saw a clip on TV.
Have you seen anything recently?
I saw something in social media that seemed to kind of mitigate what was reported back at the time of the arrest, but I didn't read the article very thoroughly. I just kind of skimmed it, and I really don't know what the substance of the article was.
Okay, so the two things there I want to talk about. You remember seeing something originally about the case. Do you recall the source of that information?
I think it was a TV clip, and
Okay.
I saw her. I think there was a man there, was much taller, and she was smaller, had long hair, and she started to cry. That's what I remember about it.
Okay. Do you remember anything else from back then?
Well, I remember what you basically said, that she was arrested because supposedly there was an undercover person that she contracted with to.
Okay, but other than what obviously I read that this morning in open court, but in terms of what you remember seeing or reading in the past about the case, and I'm going to deal with the social media in just a minute, but do you think you heard about it then you said you saw a clip, so I'm assuming it was on television?
Yes.
Do you recall anything else that you may have seen or heard back then?
No, that was it. I may have seen that clip several times, but it was basically that clip, and the story was what you told us this morning.
Okay. Now, you also said, I think more recently, but don't let me put words in your mouth, you said you saw something on social media.
Yes, I saw something on social media that seemed to somehow mitigate what evidence there was against her, but I don't remember any details. It was, sometimes I just skim through a lot of stuff and I didn't pay too much attention.
When you say social media, what are you referring to specifically?
Probably like a news article off of Facebook or maybe off of the Post. I get text, I don't remember exactly. I get text messages off of the Post.
Okay, so it could have been off of Facebook, it could have been a text that was sent to you or something you saw on the internet.
Yes.
And do you recall anything specific from that article except you say it seemed to mitigate against?
It seemed to mitigate and lessen somehow. It made me feel like lessen the, I can't even say evidence. I really don't remember in substance because I didn't pay too much attention to it.
Okay, it sounds like it painted a little bit different picture perhaps than what you'd heard
yes,
before. Okay.
It seemed to paint a little bit different picture.
Okay. I want to speak about both of those things right now, either the social media or what you recall seeing before on the television. Based on what you've seen and or read, have you reached any opinions about the case at this point? I'm
not sure actually, but I mean, it seems to me as, I don't know the facts, so I really can't.
No, I understand that, and what we want to do is make sure that you haven't reached any conclusions or you have any preconceived notions about the case based on what you might have heard outside of this courtroom. That's why and please understand this, there are no right or wrong answers, there's only truthful answers, all right? Because it doesn't matter to us. We just need to know whether there's been any effect on you for something that you may have read or seen outside the courtroom, okay? So, kind of returning to that question, based on what you may have seen or read outside of the courtroom, Have you reached any conclusions about the case, even if they're tentative conclusions?
Well, the arrest, I mean, it seemed to be that she tried to hire someone to have her husband killed. I mean, that's what it seemed like. And then,
Okay.
like I said, there was something that kind of mitigated that conclusion lately. So I
Have you reached any conclusions yourself about the guilt or innocence of Ms. Dippolito at this point?
no, not really.
Okay. You mentioned that what you saw seemed to suggest that she may have been guilty of something.
At the time, yes, I thought that.
Okay. Now, the question becomes, are you going to be able to set those things aside, those tentative conclusions, whatever they may be, preconceived notions, are you going to be able to set those things aside and decide this case based on the evidence and only the evidence is presented here in the law that I instruct you on?
Well, of course.
Okay, so is there anything about what you saw or read before which in any way is going to impact your ability to be fair, impartial, and open-minded in this case and listen to the evidence and decide the case based on the evidence?
Well, the only thing that I heard was that she contracted with someone, but I mean...
No, I understand what you heard. I just want to make sure you haven't reached any conclusions based on that.
Well, I don't know what other facts there are that would affect, the outcome. So I don't know.
Well, you haven't heard the evidence, obviously.
Right, so
Okay.
how those things would weigh in, I don't know.
All right, so again, I don't want to put words in your mouth, so you've not reached any conclusions about the case?
Not definitely, no.
Okay, well, any conclusions? I don't mean to mince words with you, but it's really important for the lawyers to know how you feel, so I don't mean to pick on you.
I understand.
When you say definite opinions, really, have you reached any opinions about the case at this point?
Well, at the first, when I saw that news clip, it seemed to me as though she was guilty. But then, as I say, time has gone by now, and I saw this other article that seemed to somehow mitigate that culpability, so I'm not really sure, and I don't know what other facts there are as to, how, the arrest came about or I don't know anything about it, really. So I don't know. It's hard for me to say. It's slightly colored against her, perhaps, yes.
Okay, well, that's what I did know. So there is at least some viewpoint of yours that is colored by what you saw.
I'm like I say, though, I don't know all of the...
No, I appreciate that. I know we're asking these questions in a vacuum. They seem confusing. They seem like we're picking on you. I'm just trying to make sure. We need to make sure that we select impartial jurors that can only decide the case not based on preconceived notions, things they may have heard outside the courtroom, but just what happened here in terms of the evidence. So that's why I keep asking those questions. I'm going to give the attorneys, though, an opportunity to ask some questions if they wish.
Ma'am, do you remember what the article that you read was about?
No, it was, sometimes I just skim through a whole bunch of stuff, maybe right before I go to sleep, and I know that it came up again, and I was like, oh, this has come up again after all these years.
But did you...
I didn't focus too...
Did you click and open the article and read
Yes, but I just kind of skimmed it and then, returned back to the previous, to the referring page. Didn't really...
Do you recall when that was?
Excuse me?
Do you recall when that was?
It was probably in the last 6 months or so.
Okay. You said that your opinion or your thoughts are slightly colored against her. Do you have some reservations about your ability to walk into something 100%, set your prior opinions or thoughts aside?
No, I mean, I think that I would try to be as fair as possible given whatever the evidence is presented at the time of the trial. I mean, I think that would be my job as a juror. I mean, you can't go exactly by what, you see in the media. Something can be colored one way and be another, and a person is presumed guilty until presumed innocent until they're found guilty in a court, so.
When you say you can't go exactly by the media, you shouldn't go by the media at all.
Right.
Do you think that what we're trying to find out is the things that you've read and been exposed to, do you think that there's any possibility that those are going to factor into your mind in evaluating this case if you were selected as a juror?
Factor in, I would say no, because I think that it has to be considered just on the basis of the evidence that's presented.
Okay, defense?
No question, Your Honor.
Okay. Man, we're going to ask you to come back tomorrow not tomorrow, I'm sorry, we've rescheduled a little bit. We're going to ask you not to come back tomorrow. We're going to ask you to come back on Monday at 9:30. Please remember not to discuss the case. Do not listen to or read news accounts of the trial, and do not do any research about the case. When you come back Monday, you're going to go to the first floor where you started. We'll come down and get you or send somebody for you when you want you back up. So we'll see you back here on Monday morning.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're 5'7"?
Yeah, she was.
Yeah, 5/7's hardship and knowledge. Yeah, I got it. Believe it or not, I do keep notes. It's just occasionally I'll run over something and forget it. Mr. Arnold, how are you? Counsel, you may be seated. I think you indicated you had two issues with us. One was you think you know something about the case. The other is you want to discuss a hardship with me. I want to start with what you know about the case or think you know about the case. Can you tell me that?
Well, it was back in what you said, 2009, and it's been all over the TV since then.
All right, so you've seen this reported on the television.
I've seen this reported many times on TV.
Do you recall specifically what you've seen?
No, I can't.
Okay. Let me ask this question. Based on what you have seen, because you indicated you've seen it, let me just clarify a little bit. Have you seen anything recently about it? About the case, you think?
Heard on the radio.
On the radio, okay. Have you seen anything recently on the television about the case?
There was about a year ago or so, there was a show on it about crimes or something, I believe. And there was like a scenario that was put out.
Okay. You think that may have related to this case, based on what you...
I believe so, yes.
Okay. Let me ask this question, based on, because you didn't recall anything specific, and I may come back to that, I may not, but based on what you have seen or heard, because you indicated some of it was on the radio, actually seen, heard, or read for that matter, have you reached any conclusions about the case at this point?
No, I don't think I've reached any conclusions, but it may create bias by the different things that were said.
Well, that's important to know too. So based on what was said, and by what was said you mean outside of the courtroom, you're talking about either on the television, what you heard on the radio, perhaps what you read. Do you believe that has created some bias in you?
Probably not. I didn't pay that much attention to it. I just know that I'm so aware of it.
Okay. Have you reached any conclusions about whether or not Ms. Dippolito is guilty or not guilty in this case?
No.
All right. Do you have any preconceived notions about this case based on what you have heard or read?
Not in depth enough, just doubt.
Doubt. Let's talk about your doubt. When you say just doubt, what do you mean by that?
Well, you hear so many scenarios about what goes on. You don't know what to believe. So maybe in the case, I might be able to shed what I have heard from the past and apply what I hear in the courtroom, and it might be able to make a valid decision.
Okay, well, a couple things there. One, you can't apply what you've heard in the past. What you'll be required to do if you're serving as a juror is you're going to be required in a very strict fashion to decide this case based only on the evidence that you hear here in this courtroom and the law that I instruct you on during the course of the case. And so you can't decide the case or cannot even factor into your decision making something you may have heard or read outside of that evidence. And so, for example, if you heard something that you didn't hear in evidence, you can't go back and say, well, I heard something on the radio or I heard something on television, and that's important to my decision making, and I'm going to let that affect me. Even though I didn't hear it in the courtroom, it's something I heard someplace else. Do you understand?
I understand what you're saying, but my concern is that I may blur the two.
That's fine. That's what we need to know, and that's really the question. Do you fear that you're going to, despite your best efforts, I know you would not intentionally do that, but despite your best efforts, do you believe that what you have heard and read is basically going to bleed into your decision making, that it could affect your decision in this case rather than simply deciding the case based on the evidence, because as you've described it, there may be some blurring?
And that's a possibility because I may not be versed on it at this time, but after getting into the case, some of the recall may come back, and it may get blurred in my head, and that's my main concern.
Okay, and I appreciate that. Counsel, any questions on that? Counsel, agreement? Okay. All right, sir, we're going to go ahead and let you go. We're not going to have you come back tomorrow. So you're going to be released from jury service in this case. You will not have to come back tomorrow. You're released today. All you have to do is go downstairs, jury assembly room where you started, turn in your juror badge. Please don't discuss anything with the other jurors on your way out, but you're discharged.
Thank you.
Juror 5A.
Squad, if you could just go right to that microphone right there, and counsel, you may be seated. I think you indicated that you thought you might know something about the case. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, can you tell me what you believe you know about the case?
Okay, but first of all, I only hear this one on the radio. Yeah.
It's all right.
Yeah, on the radio, but I was prejudging that the lady had something to see about this one because they contracted somebody to do the job for her.
Okay, let me. You said a couple of things. I want to just focus on it. First of all, you heard about this case, you believe, on the radio.
Yeah.
All right. Now, in a minute, I'm going to ask you what you heard. But before I get there, you used the word prejudge, so I want to talk to you about that for just a minute. Based on what you heard on the radio, have you prejudged this case? In other words, have you reached some conclusions at this point about the case based on what you heard?
But the things that they talking, I don't remember well what they talk about. With, I think the people who was hearing that was thinking, yeah, the lady was supposed to have some reason for trying to do that thing.
Okay, I still need to kind of focus on a little bit for just a minute. Based on what you heard on the radio, have you reached any conclusions about the guilt or innocence of Ms. Dippolito at this point, based on what you heard?
Yeah, because we are not attorney, we are not officers, and then we only have the news, and we don't have nothing to prove something.
Okay, so you, and again, I don't want to put words in your mouth, okay? So if I say something that's incorrect, please tell me. But it sounds like you're telling me that you have reached an opinion about guilt or innocence in this case already based on what you've heard. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that, I'm sorry, to be a yes. Is that yes?
Oh, yes, yeah, sorry.
Counsel, any questions?
No, sir.
No.
Okay. All right, sir, we're going to go ahead and excuse you from jury service in this case. You're not going to have to come back tomorrow or any other time. Simply go down to the first floor where you started on the jury assembly room, turn in your juror badge. Please do not discuss anything with the other potential jurors on the way out. Thank you. You're excused with our
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everybody.
No, because when it goes off, somebody has to push it to make it.
Juror 5-9.
Okay, hang on just a minute, Deputy. I've got to talk to this juror. I'll talk to you in a minute. Counsel, you may be seated. All right, is it Ms. Nibbs?
Yes.
Ms. Nibbs, I think what you indicated, you didn't tell me that you thought you knew something about the case. You said you had a hardship. Is that right?
Yes.
Can you talk to me about that? Tell me what your hardship is.
I am a single parent of a 9-month-old, and I provide for my household and my mom's household. So even being here kind of cuts away from a full day's pay.
Okay. Do you get paid for the time that you're on jury duty?
Say that again?
You get paid. First of all, who do you work for?
Child care center.
Child care center. Okay. When you're away here on jury duty, do they pay you for the time you're away?
No, not that I know of.
Okay. So you're not getting paid for the time away, and you're a single mother, and you're the sole supporter of your child and also helping out with your mother?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to excuse you for financial hardship in this case. You're not going to be required to come back. Please just go downstairs to the first floor, turn in the jury assembly room, turn that badge in. You're not required to come back.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. I got to... Well, no. When it goes off, we want somebody to turn it off. How are they going to know if they're in that room?
It needs to be pressed, or it's going to be outside the hearing. Juror 6-1.
If it starts beeping, it needs to be pressed. Okay. Is this what beeps?
Yeah.
Okay, so you would be able to take it away remotely. It wouldn't matter.
What I'm saying, I want to remove it from the courtroom so it doesn't interfere. That's all.
Okay. Okay, I just want to make sure we didn't have turn. I'm sorry, ma'am, we're having a conversation that has nothing. You want to come up here for just a minute? We'll be right with you, ma'am. I'm sorry, ma'am. I apologize for that delay. Jimenez, is that your name?
Yes.
Okay, ma'am. You indicated, I don't think you said you knew anything about the case, but you wanted to talk to me about a hardship. Is that right? Yes. Can you tell me about that? What is your hardship?
I'm going through a very difficult separation.
Okay. I'm not going to make you give me any details about that. I just want to, you obviously are emotional. The question I have, just to kind of get to the bottom of this, bottom line it, based on what's going on in your life, the emotions, are you not able to focus and concentrate right now?
No, plus the closing on the house is on the 12th.
Okay.
The buyers are trying to move it to the 8th or the 9th.
Okay.
Which would be great for me because I'm technically homeless.
Okay. All right, ma'am. I appreciate your situation. I hope that all works its way through successfully for you. But you're not going to have to worry about this case because I'm going to release you for hardship in this case. You will not have to come back. All you have to do is take that juror badge and turn it in on the first floor, and then you're excused, okay?
Thank you.
Okay.
Juror 6-3.
Okay, Mr. Parsons, if you can just walk up to that mic right there, and counsel, you may be seated. Mr. Parsons, I think you want to speak to me about two things. Number one, you said you thought you knew something about the case. Number two, you thought you had a hardship. Let me start with what you think you know about the case. What do you believe you know about the case?
Directly involved with the case, really not much of anything other than the media. I was around back then, and obviously it was all over everything, so yes.
Well, that's what we want to talk about. So you believe that you saw this case reported in the news media?
Yes.
What was that recently or back when the alleged events occurred?
Back when the alleged events occurred.
Have you seen or heard anything recently?
No, sir.
Okay. Now, back when the alleged events occurred, did you see something on the television? Did you read something? How did you know about it?
All of the above.
All of the above, okay. What do you recall either seeing or reading?
Basically, just kind of what you said with the statement on the basic facts of the case. But, you know, I saw some of the interviews on the television and stuff like that, and, you know, that was, what, 7 years ago, so.
Can you recall any, do you recall seeing any videos in connection with the case?
I believe I did.
Okay, can you recall what video you saw?
I believe it was the detective.
Okay, do you recall what the detective was doing?
I could be wrong, you know, my memory not.
Oh, that's fine.
But it seems like to me it was discussing the fact about the admission of you know, her hiring him.
Okay. Now, based on what you heard back then, did you reach any conclusions about the case?
Back then, yes.
All right. What was your conclusion back then?
I found it real hard to believe that an officer of the law would lie about something of this nature.
Okay, and so would it be fair to say, you said back then you had an opinion, so I want to see if the opinion's the same now, but let me deal with the opinion back then, or the conclusion that you reached. When you say you reached the conclusion that you had a hard time believing that an officer would lie, did you also then reach the conclusion based on that you believe that Ms. Dippolito was guilty?
Hard to say, honestly. I really don't, again, it's just what I heard, and I believed what I heard, but without hearing the other side, it'd be hard to say for certain.
Well, I understand that. Let me just focus on it a little bit.
Okay.
First of all, you said back then. Has something changed?
No, I just,
Okay.
2009. It was a
Okay,
long time
so
ago.
whatever opinions or conclusions you reached, you still have those opinions or conclusions in your mind?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, you indicated hearing from both sides. You haven't heard how a case like this must be tried, and one of the things that you're going to hear is that you must, as a juror, presume Ms. Dippolito to be innocent at this time, and that it is the state, and only the state, that you look to for evidence. The state has to prove what they allege, okay? And so I need to figure out whether what you have heard in the past is going to affect your ability to do that. In other words, presume Ms. Dippolito to be innocent and look only to the state for evidence of guilt, and that evidence coming out only in this courtroom. So what you heard or read back then, is it going to affect the way you view this case?
No, I can't really answer that. I would like to. To me, it's a gray area for me. It's not black or white.
Okay, and I realize we're kind of putting you on the spot. Well, there's a reason we do that. We do that because we can't really have gray. Okay,
Sure, I understand.
we do have to have a situation where jurors are comfortable that whatever they have heard, if they've heard anything about the case, that all of that is going to be set completely aside, and that that's not going to impact the decision-making in the case, because the case must be decided not upon what may have been reported outside of this courtroom, but upon the evidence that's presented in this courtroom, okay, and on the law that I instruct you on.
Yeah, I understand that.
So, and it's okay to, a lot of people have gray areas. That's okay. I'm just saying we have to know if it's a gray area or if it's an area where you're capable of setting these things aside. And so I hate to pick on you, but I'm going to return. Let me ask the question this way. Is there a reasonable doubt in your mind as to whether or not you're going to be impacted in your decision-making in this case, should you sit as a juror, based on what you heard previously? Is there some doubt in your mind?
No.
No. Okay. So, make sure I understand you. Whatever it is that you heard, are you able to set all of that aside, and any preconceived notions you may have had about this case, set all those things aside, and decide this case based solely on the evidence in the law? Can you do that?
Yes, I like to think I have an open mind, so I'm going to say yes to that.
Okay. Again,
I know it's not what
I like to think I have. That's the way people speak. I understand that, and so it's not putting you on the spot. But these lawyers are going to want to know: can you do that, or can you not do that, or is there doubt as to whether you can do that?
Honestly, there's doubt.
Okay, that's what I need. That's what
Honestly,
I need.
there's doubt.
And I don't mean to keep badgering you until I come to a particular conclusion, but I'm hearing a little bit of doubt in what you're saying. And so if there's a doubt in your mind, it's important for us to know. All right. Counsel, questions?
Yes, sir.
A couple questions, Robert. Good afternoon, sir. Did I hear you say earlier that you find it hard to not believe a police officer?
Yes.
So, in this case, if there is evidence put on against the police department, would you find it hard or difficult for you to listen to that evidence and have it on your mind?
No.
Do you have a bias in favor of law enforcement?
A bias, no. But I was raised to be very respectful of the law, and I find it, I don't want to say they walk on water, but they come pretty close in my eyes.
But do you believe that a police officer would never lie?
No. I mean, there's good and bad in everybody, so I'm not going to say that there are, do I believe that all policemen tell the truth? No. I'd be a fool to say that.
All right, thank you.
Council signals? Okay. Ms. Parsons, we're going to go ahead and release you from jury service in this case. You will not need to come back. Please don't discuss anything with the other prospective jurors on your way out. All you have to do is go downstairs, first floor, turn the juror badge in. You're released with our thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Claypool, never mind, I'll tell you in a minute. Is it Marquise? That microphone right there? Counsel, you may be seated. I think you indicated you thought you had a hardship, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, can you tell me about that, please?
I'm going to try to make a long story short.
Okay.
1966, I came to this country. I was 15 years old. I came from Portugal. My parents put me to work in a restaurant washing dishes. They never sent me to school. So I have no school in Portugal or in this country. I went to work. And I speak very good. I understand 90% of the English. I understand. Like this morning, I understand 85% what you said. You said, like this word tedious. I don't even know what that word means.
Tedious?
Yeah. But a lot of words I don't understand. Expensive words, like high-class words. And I could read very little. Like if I'm on 95, I could read the sign, Lantana. But I cannot write zero English. I cannot write English at all. If you tell me to write daughter or son, I cannot write it. I can write English. And that's my English. And then in 2005, I worked in construction all these years, heavy road construction. I fell in the manhole. I became disabled in 2005. I could sit for about 30, 40 minutes, but then I got to get up and stretch. And then I cannot stand for a long period of time either. I got to sit, and I got to sit or stand. No more, I got to be balanced. And I got a bulged discs and herniated discs. That's my life.
Okay. Let me ask you a couple of questions. First has to do with, you raised language first. You do speak very well.
I do.
And what I want to know is, I realize that occasionally we use a word that you may not recognize, but I need to get a feel for whether you understood what we were discussing earlier today. Now, other than the word tedious, did you understand the concepts, what we were discussing? Were you able to understand all of that?
A lot of it, but not everything, no.
Not everything.
But a lot.
Okay.
I understood a lot of what you said, but a lot of words I don't understand. I need people to ask. Like when I read a letter, when I get a letter from a conversation, I have my neighbor to read it for me because my kids used to read it for me in New York, but I retired when I be disabled. I came over here in 2008 to Florida, and I get my neighbors to read it for me.
Okay.
Because I read it, but I don't know what it means.
All right.
Because American reads, they speak different than what we read, right?
All right. True. Let me ask another question. You okay? Mr. Claypool, I got a thumbs up. Do you want to?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Okay. All right. All right. Since you have some concern about your ability to understand everything that's going to go on, we're going to go ahead and release you in this case based on that language issue. You do not have to come back. Just go to the first floor, turn your juror badge in, and you're released. Just don't discuss anything about the case with the other potential jurors. So you don't have to come back. You're released.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Juror 5A.
Ms. Khan, you can just come right up to this microphone if you would, that one that's standing there. Counsel, you may be seated. I think you indicated that you knew something about the case. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor, that is correct.
Okay, and I did get your name correct. Ms. Khan, is that
Wendy
correct?
Khan, correct.
Wendy Khan, right, okay. What do you believe you know about the case?
Well, I'm a Boynton Beach resident for over 16 years, so it happened, the incident took place close to my home.
Okay, and did you, have you heard or read things about the case?
Yes.
Okay, and before I find out what you have heard or read, let me just ask this question. Have you reached conclusions about the case based on what you have heard and read?
Yes, I have.
Okay, and what conclusions have you reached?
I would be impartial. I had my own mind made up.
Okay, so you've already reached, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you've already reached an opinion with respect to the guilt or innocence of Ms. Dippolito based on what you've already heard.
That is correct.
Okay. Counsel, any questions? In agreement? Okay. Ms. Khan, we're going to go ahead and release you from jury service in this case. You do not have to come back tomorrow or any other time. All you have to do is turn that juror badge in downstairs on the first floor. Please do not discuss anything with the other jurors on the way out.
Understood. Thank you, Your Honor.
Juror 7-1.
Ms. Ramadi, if you could just come right up to that microphone right there. Counsel, you may be seated. I believe, Ms. Ramadi, you indicated you needed to speak to us about two things. One, you thought you knew something about the case. Secondly, you had a hardship you wanted to discuss with me. But let me discuss with you first what you believe you know about the case. Can you tell me what you think you know?
Just what I've heard through internet sites and the media about the case.
Well, what have you, first of all, what was the source of the information? You said internet, media sites?
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure. This has just been over the past year.
Have you read or heard anything recently? Actually, I better define that because you said in the last year. In the last couple of weeks, have you heard anything?
No, not in the last couple of weeks.
Okay, so, but within the last year you have.
Mm-hmm.
And have you, before that, had you heard anything about the case?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so not a year ago, and then further back than that, you've heard something about the case through the media, I take it?
Yes.
Okay, do you recall what it is that you have heard about the case?
Honestly speaking, just that I heard the defendant hired somebody to kill her husband.
Okay, you heard that reported.
That was the charge, or that was the.
Okay.
Yeah.
Based on what did you view any videos or see anything specific?
Videos, no.
Okay.
No, these were just news headlines.
Based on what you have heard about the case, have you reached any conclusions about the case at this point? Do you have any preconceived notions about the case at this point?
No.
Have you reached any opinions concerning the guilt or innocence of Ms. Dippolito at this point?
No.
All right. Regardless of what you may have heard, are you able to set those things aside, decide this case based on the evidence and only the evidence that's presented in this courtroom?
I believe so.
Okay. When you say I believe, there's a little bit of ambiguity there. Can you do that?
Yes, I could do that.
Okay. In a moment, I'm going to give the attorneys an opportunity to ask you some follow-up questions, but before I do, I want to go ahead and deal with the hardship issue.
Yes, that's the more pressing for me.
Okay, so let's talk about that. What is your hardship?
I am in the midst of a personal hardship in my home with my husband. That's concerning our financial security, and if I do not show up for work next week, we will not be able to pay rent. So.
Okay, let me just ask a couple questions. Where do you work?
I'm a yoga teacher.
You're a yoga teacher, okay.
So I have clients and.
Don't know much about that business, but let me ask this question. I'm assuming, and maybe I shouldn't assume, I'll just ask. Do you get paid when you don't work?
Absolutely not.
Okay, so you're an independent contractor. You have people, you come in, they pay you.
And I have clients.
If you're not there for your clients, you don't get paid.
100%.
May sound like a silly question, but didn't think you've already answered it. But if for whatever reason you needed to be here for a week or so, not able to service those clients, not able to get paid.
It would gravely affect my home life, yeah.
Okay, all right. I'm going to go ahead and grant financial hardship then. You're not going to have to come back. So you need just to go downstairs, turn in your juror badge on the first floor. Do not discuss anything with the other jurors on the way out.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Juror 7-2. Hey, Judge, excuse me 1 second.
Okay. All right, let me go ahead and see where I'm at. Juror, Mr. Ford, okay. Mr. Ford, you indicated that you know something about the case and also that you have a hardship, is that correct?
That's just the case. And what was the other part?
Well, I thought you had also raised your hand for a hardship.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay. Tell me what you think you know about the case.
Just what I've seen in the media.
Okay, and what have you seen in the media?
Basically, she hired a person to, I guess, dispose of her husband.
You saw that in the media?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And can you remember anything specifically that you might have seen, like a videotape or anything like that?
No.
Okay. Have you reached any conclusions about the case based on what you saw?
No.
Have you reached any opinions about the guilt or innocence of Ms. Dippolito based on what you saw?
No.
Do you have any preconceived notions about the case based on what you saw or read?
No, sir.
Okay. Can you, whatever you may have seen or heard, can you set those things aside and decide this case based solely on the evidence that's presented in this courtroom?
That's what I'd have to do.
Well, that's what you have to do. Can you do that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. But did you also indicate that you had a hardship?
I do.
Okay. Tell me about that, please.
I had Mohs surgery on Tuesday. I have to have stitches out this coming Tuesday. I'm also the primary caregiver for my wife who has multiple myeloma, bone cancer. So I help her with her medicines and dressing.
Are you home full-time with her?
I am.
Okay. So there's no one else that could assist you in that regard?
Not in that regard, no, sir.
Okay. All right, on medical hardship, then I'm going to go ahead and release you from jury service. In this case, you will not have to come back. You can turn your juror badge in on the first floor, and you will not have to come back. Just don't discuss anything with the other jurors on the way out. Neil, don't bring anybody else in.
Thank you. Okay. We're done?
You're done. You can go on downstairs. Wait till it clears the hallway. Okay, here's what I've just been told. I have just been told that jurors standing out in the hallway, because there's a media room out there, can hear everything I'm saying and the responses that are being given. We'll have to find out who's heard something, but that's what we're being told?
I heard that, and a couple other deputies heard it. They heard it as they were walking in, Judge.
The deputies heard it.
Yes.
And where is this coming from?
That little room. You want to bring up Deputy Oblo?
Yeah.
There it is.
We've been sending people home, we don't know what they've heard. This is so risky, we have to strike this down.
Well, not the people I sent home before I even started talking with
They've
them.
been there earlier here, so we don't know if they were with you in the hallway before you called them.
Well, I can find that out, though.
No, I just explained to them that we don't need to leave the door open. These are the jurors we're picking. And they said, we haven't said anything. We're just sitting in here quiet. I said, we don't want to give them any reason to say, wonder why Channel 12's here and look it up. So I showed them how to lock the door and unlock it. So they're all inside with the door shut, so they won't open it.
But, okay, that's fine, but something's being reported to me, and what's being reported to me is that certain jurors have said they heard what we were discussing in the courtroom.
I can bring the juror in, Judge.
We're going to in a moment, but is that accurate?
I was not privy to that. I just noticed that door was open and asked them to close it. I closed it and spoke to them and I came out.
How long has it been open?
I do not know, I just came up.
Who's responsible for that door from the media?
The media people are in it.
How long has that door been open?
I can go ask them.
Well, you can bring them in here and they're going to answer to me.
Judge?
Yes.
Deputy Ross, Pat Ross. That door was open this morning too, when I was up here earlier for a couple hours, and that door was open as well. I just, you don't know that too as well. They were checking their equipment, they get down, and you're, walking by and hear what was going on.
And that was open this morning?
Yes, we started. They were still doing sound checks and doing their TV check and all that.
And there's no way to determine what was heard by who as CRC judge. We have to move this right to stand on.
Well, I understand what you're moving to do. I have to decide whether, to a certain extent, that's going to have to be granted, but I'm not sure to the full extent you're requesting. Mr. Williams, Ms. Lord? Well, no, let's deal with what we're being told, and we'll find out what, we'll get to the bottom of this, but let's find out what is happening. But this is what I believe is happening, and if this is what's happening, I want to know what we're going to do about it now. What I understand has just happened is, and may have happened earlier today, is because the media left that door open, and because this is being broadcast live, when I'm having private conversations with jurors in this room, jurors that are waiting outside are hearing what I'm saying, and they're hearing the responses that are being given by the people that are being interviewed. That's what I'm being told. I'm going to confirm that in just a moment, but that's what I'm being told. If that's the case, what do I do with the work I've done today? I know what I'm going to do in a few moments, but what do I do with the work I've done today with the jurors that we've interviewed? Now, we didn't start private, there's a number of people we didn't even start private conversations with until they were discharged. There is a risk that they may have been here and stood outside the hallway longer than they should have when I began the individual questions. But those people, I can make an inquiry as to whether they heard anything or not. The problem I've got right now is everyone else who's been out here since 1:30 or whenever we brought them back and earlier, in other words, everyone who has participated in the discussions, and I didn't discharge immediately this morning, I've got an issue. Now, a lot of them are gone. A lot of them I've let go already, but I've got an issue about whether they've now heard what's going on, and based on what they heard, now they know something about the case they didn't know before. That's my problem. And I don't know, I'm assuming, I mean, I could bring people in that are still out there and find out whether they've heard anything that's been going on.
I guess we continue on, you ask each one that question.
Well, what do I do with the people that we...
I think, Judge, we're not talking to some people, so, we're really not talking about that many people that are out there, so when you bring them back on Monday, the first thing, you bring all those people back in, you question each one of them.
Well, those people I have no problem with. Those people are the easy people. The people I sent away... The people I sent away immediately this morning before we started interviews, those people, what I have to do is I have to bring them back in. I have to say, we were having conversations in here. Did anyone at all hear anything with respect to what was being discussed? So that's the easy part. The harder part are the people that we've been interviewing all day. Now, most of those people we've let go, but not all those people.
So on Monday, we questioned those 12 people, and you do the same question.
Very likely that a lot of those people were sitting further down the hallway. The room he's talking about is like 2 doors down to the freight elevator that's right out here. So if people were further down on those benches, I don't think they would have heard anything. I think that they, obviously the risk of somebody that's right there, but me questioning them, and obviously if they said, yeah, I might have heard something I kind of heard, then obviously they're gone.
This is such a risk. Even the deputies in the back aren't sure of different versions of what happened. Something was open. This is...
Yeah, but I can... Before I make a decision to basically blow the whole panel, I can at least make inquiry as to whether I think whether people have heard things or not heard things. I think there's an intermediate step before I just blow the entire panel. But here's the other problem. Right now, I've got people still out there. I need to bring every one of those folks in here right now and ask them whether or not they have heard anything that's been going on in this courtroom. If they say they have, I'm not going to ask them what they heard yet. I'm obviously going to be cautious about how we proceed. But I need to know all those people that are out there right now. I need to know whether anyone's heard anything that we've been discussing, and then individually find out what they heard and what impact it might have had. I have to identify the people that we have asked to come back that I haven't released, because the people I've released, it's a non-issue. Whether they heard or didn't hear, they already had opinions about the case. So we have to go back through, figure out the people that I discussed, and that's not very hard to do. I've got them.
Come back on Monday, do we know if they were waiting around for a little bit?
No, but I'm going to ask them. I have to ask them. I have to make an inquiry when they come back. I have to ask them, did anyone remain here? Did anyone hear anything that was said in this courtroom? And if they did, I have to, again, have an individual conversation with them about what they heard or didn't hear and what impact it may have had. But I'm not going to simply, those folks, as far as I know, they left. If they left, they didn't hear anything, they're okay, there's not a problem. But if they didn't leave, if they stayed and they heard something, we have a problem. But I can't just conclude that all those people heard something and just basically discharge them at this time, because if they left, they didn't hear a thing. They haven't heard anything. And the people that are left on this list are limited. And so, because most of the people we're letting go, once we find out what they know, we're letting them go anyway. So it is a small subset, but I'm going to have to go back now and find out who's heard what and what impact it might have had. First thing I want to know, is that door closed now?
Yes. Yes, sir.
I want someone stationed outside that door, and if there's even a hint that what's being said in this courtroom can be heard in that hallway, I want to know it immediately. All right, Mr. Williams, what were you about to say? I am going to do that, but I'm going to have to figure out whether individually, and don't let me forget to ask that question of each person. Deputy Rodriguez, you have something to say? I'm Gonzalez, I'm sorry. I got so many Rodriguez's on here, Deputy.
There's a media room, the door is open, I don't know if that creates a problem.
It's still open?
No, sir, that was shut. The one that's right outside there.
Now it's open.
The one that's right here?
Outside in the conference.
Is there another, they have two rooms? You have two rooms? No, just one that's shut. Okay. That's why I walked back out there to make sure.
Well, can you inquire, when did you go in?
When I first came in.
Judge, would you like me to bring in the juror that approached me and told me this?
Yeah, we're going to get to that person because we're still we're interviewing these people individually. So, no, you don't have to do it yet. We're going to get to that person.
And I'm sorry, regarding this device, I contact community corrections and Deputy Department. It's okay to be away from sight and sound, provided that the proceedings takes it with
All right, so you can take it out of here, so it's not going to... Well, somebody has to give it back to her, so... In other words, we can remove, we can set it in there, it's not going to cause a problem. All right.
Probably going to go off far away from
Well, if it goes off, somebody will turn it off. He's already talked to the people in charge of supervision, so...
Obviously, the last thing I'll say, Your Honor's rules, we don't know how tainted this is, who's talking to who, we're...
That's true, that's why I have to... That's why I have to speak to them. I mean, I don't know. I can't make the assumption now that people I sent away first thing this morning heard what was going on. They may have, and we may have a bigger problem than I thought, but I can't make that assumption. I have to make the inquiry. I can't
So
just...
are we going to individually question all the people who didn't know anything, didn't have hardships, who walked out, who could easily walk out of a room? Or
Yes, yes. Anyone, we are going to question everyone that comes back that's been here today, whether they left early this morning or whether they left just a few moments ago. Anyone who was here today is going to be asked whether or not they heard anything. Now, the way I'll do it with the group that's coming back first thing on Monday that was here and we discharged earlier this morning, I'll bring them as in a group, I'll ask a group question, I'll have them raise hands, and then those, the same thing we're doing right now. If they raise their hands, I'm going to say, okay, what did you hear? When did you hear it? And what impact did it have? But that's how we're going to have to proceed. Okay.
You want them all?
No. We're going to continue, and I'm going to figure out this mess at the end of the day. Yeah, let's figure out where we left off. Let's see. I've spoken with Khan. I think Chapnick is the next one. Linda Chapnick. At the end of the day, whoever's in charge of that media room is going to be in front of me.
Judge, we can make that happen. I'm sure they heard you loud and clear. So whoever's in charge.
They're going to hear me face to face.
Yes, sir.
No, I do not need a timeout. I do not need a timeout.
Juror 73.
Ms. Chapnick, you can come right up to this microphone right here. Counsel, you may be seated. Ms. Chapnick, you indicated that you believed you might know something about this case. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and what do you believe you know about the case?
I remember the video on TV quite a few years ago, and then I saw it again this morning, that they were seating a jury today on the news this morning.
Do you recall specifically what video you saw?
I think it was a video of her crying because she thought her husband was dead.
Okay, did you see any other videos?
No, not that I remember.
Okay, have you, based on what you, now you said you saw something this morning, did you also see something in the past? Or was it just this morning?
Well, I saw that video in the past.
Okay, you
Like
saw the
years
same
ago.
video you're telling me about in the past?
Yeah, and then this morning I saw things saying they were seating a jury like at 5:30 this morning.
Okay,
I was getting ready.
Did you see the video this morning?
No.
Okay, so you saw the video in the past and you saw they were seating a jury. All right. Based on that, did you reach any conclusions about the case?
No.
Do you have any preconceived notions about the case based on what you either saw in the past or saw this morning?
No.
Have you reached any opinions concerning the guilt or innocence of Ms. Dippolito based on what you have seen?
No.
Do you have any preconceived notions about the case based on what you have seen?
No.
All right. Are you able, whatever you did see, are you able to set those things aside and decide this case based on the evidence and only the evidence that's presented in this courtroom?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to give the attorneys an opportunity to ask you a couple of questions. Does the state have any questions? Defense?
Are you going to be inquiring about a certain hallway?
If you'd approach for just a minute. Yes, I am, but I...
afternoon.
Just have a couple of questions for you. You mentioned a video you saw.
Right.
Can you tell me a little more detail? Tell me a little bit of the video. How long was it?
It was quite a few years ago when I saw it, and it was on the news. And it was her talking to police and crying. And that's about all I remember. It was quite a few years ago.
Did any thoughts enter your mind at that point in time about Ms. Dippolito?
Not really, no. I just caught it in passing, so it wasn't something I sat and studied or paid a lot of attention to.
But you didn't get any kind of visceral reaction, wow, that lady did something wrong, she's guilty? Did that ever?
No, I kind of take the news with a grain of salt.
Thank you, ma'am.
I have just a couple more questions for you, ma'am. We've been discussing various issues with folks in here in private, just like we've been discussing with you. As you've been out in the hallway, have you been able to hear anything that's been going on in this courtroom?
No.
Okay, so you've not heard any of the questions that I've asked or the response of any of the people that I've made inquiry of. Is that right?
None.
Okay. All right, ma'am. Oh, yes, I can't ask it. Where were you waiting to be called? Where were you standing? Where were
I
you
was sitting on the floor.
Kind of where?
Hallway, between the two courtrooms.
Between the two
Closer to yours.
Closer to this courtroom,
Yeah.
but between this courtroom
And
and
the
the
other
courtroom
one.
next door. Okay, all right, ma'am. We're going to ask you at this time to come back on Monday at 9:30. Please do not discuss the case with anyone, including any discussions with the potential jurors that are left. Do not do any research with respect to this case, and do not listen to or read any news accounts of the trial.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay? All right, thank you very much. We'll see you back Monday at 9:30 instead of tomorrow. It's not tomorrow, but Monday at 9:30, okay?
Juror 7-5.
Yes. Let me just get her up to the microphone first. Is it Ms. Ranaras?
Ramnares.
Okay. You hold on just one moment. The attorneys want to speak to me. I apologize for that. All right, ma'am, I think you indicated that you knew something or thought you might know something about the case. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, what do you believe you knew about the case or might have known about the case?
I'm actually familiar with it because I had followed it back in 2009.
Okay, so you follow the case basically back from inception. Have you seen things on the news about the case?
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen things recently about the case?
Yes.
Okay. Before I get into specifically what you have seen, have you reached any conclusions about the case based on what you've seen?
No.
Have you reached any opinions or conclusions about the guilt or innocence of Ms. Dippolito based on what you've seen?
No.
All right. Do you have any preconceived notions about the case based on what you've seen? Is that, I'm sorry, is it no? Okay. Can you tell me what you have seen? What do you recall seeing?
I recall the whole 2009 case about what had happened, but recently I saw she was going for a retrial and that she was possibly going for a script as her plea.
All right. You mentioned retrial. So you heard somewhere that there was a trial before. Is that correct?
Yes.
And so she was going for a retrial. Okay. Do you know anything about the results of that first trial?
Yes.
Okay. And what were the results from that first trial?
I know that she was guilty, but then it was thrown out.
Okay. Counsel, any questions? Okay, ma'am. We're going to go ahead, and Neil, before you bring the next person in, pause, please. We're going to go ahead and release you from jury service in this case. You do not have to come back. Just please turn your juror badge in on the first floor. Do not discuss anything with the other jurors, and you're discharged.
Thank you.
But what issue? No, I'm letting her go anyway. Okay. Neil, there was a question. Dente said he knew the person who thought, you know, I want to talk to that person next. Who is it? 10-8. Arnold. Okay, what we'll do, counsel, just so you know, I'm not going to bring him in twice. Obviously, I'll ask him what he thinks he knows about the case, but also ask him first about what he heard out in the hallway and where he was and who was around him, okay? All right, bring in Mr. Arnold, please. He said 10-8.
Juror 10-8.
Mr. Arnold, if we could just come up to that microphone right there. Counsel, you may be seated. I have a couple of questions for you, but I want to start with this question. And I want you to correct me if I'm wrong, okay, because I may not have this right. My understanding is that you indicated to one of the deputies that while you're out in the hallway, you can hear what's going on in the courtroom. Is that correct?
I heard your voice. I heard other voices from this room, yes.
Okay. What do you, first of all, where were you when you heard these voices?
Sitting in the hallway.
Okay. Do you know, in terms of sitting in the hallway, can you kind of give me some idea in terms that you go out this hallway right here, it's the doors out of this courtroom, where were you?
I was 2 doors across, or well, sitting on the other side, just a little farther down.
Just kind of right outside?
Over by the window.
Over by the window, okay. And you could hear what was being said in the courtroom?
I could hear your voice, and again, I can't tell you if it was live or if it was being playback, but I definitely heard your voice and other voices.
Okay, and what, do you recall anything that was said?
It was just questions, the back and forth, and the individual, no, that I don't. I just recognized your voice and knew I shouldn't be hearing it.
Okay, so you heard my voice. Could you actually understand what I was saying? In other words, I was speaking loud enough, it was being broadcast loud enough that you could hear my question?
Yes.
Could you hear the response by the person I was questioning?
Not as much. I wasn't paying. I was sitting there, and just kind of all of a sudden I realized I'm hearing your voice, and I know I shouldn't be, and
okay, that's
I didn't pay attention, and that's why I got up and said something.
And that's why we appreciate people like you telling us things like that, so I appreciate that. Do you know who was sitting around you?
There was a mixture of the jurors were all sitting around there, and then a few farther down.
Do you know any of these people? I mean, would you?
No, I've been sitting there pretty much to myself all day.
Okay, so you know there were other people around, but you couldn't identify specifically. And I suppose I could bring people in and line them up for you, but I'm not going to do that. But you could. You know there were people around. You don't know whether did anyone say anything to you about hearing what's going on?
No.
Okay, you just decided you need to report this, so you got up and said, "Hey, I can hear what's going on."
Exactly.
And I haven't. You indicated you also know something about the case, or you believe you know something about the case.
Well, I watch the news every night. It's been all over the news. I've seen the TV shows.
And we're going to get to that in just a moment. And so I'm going to ask you to kind of separate two things for me. Anything that you heard or overheard me asking any person who was in here, or anything that person said, anything about that exchange that you overheard which in any way would affect any opinions or conclusions you have about this case?
No.
Okay. But let's get to what you do believe you know about the case. You say you follow the news.
Well, I saw the news. We watch the news every night. It was on for, I live in Boynton, Enough said.
Okay, so do you remember seeing and hearing about it?
Oh, without a question.
Way back, not just recently?
Oh, no, even I saw it on the computer yesterday, so before I even walked in the door today,
okay.
I knew what the situation was.
Okay, and based on what you've seen or heard or read, have you reached any opinions about the case?
Yes.
Okay.
I would like to stand here and say no, but honestly, I have, yes.
No, all we're asking for is honesty. I mean, we don't want people coming in and say, I haven't, when they have. Mm-hmm. So honesty is all we're looking for. So you have reached opinions about the case.
Yes.
I don't want to presume anything, but have you reached opinions about whether in the case, based on what you've heard already, without hearing any evidence about whether Ms. Dippolito is guilty or not guilty in the case?
Mm-hmm. Again, going by the TV shows and that, I've made my opinions, and whether that would change or not, I don't know.
Okay, but coming in, you've already reached an opinion about the case just based on what you've heard?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, is that fair? Okay.
Yes.
All right, counsel? Okay. All right, Kate, Mr. Arnold, we're going to go ahead and excuse you from jury service in this case. You will not have to come back tomorrow.
Thank you.
Just turn in your juror badge on the first floor, and you're excused. Do not discuss anything with the other jurors on the way out.
Not a word.
Hang on a second. What question you want to ask? I think I asked that, but I will. Do you know whether other people sitting around you could hear the audio that was being broadcast out there?
I think they heard it, but I don't think they realized what it was.
Okay.
I really don't think anybody paid any attention. And quite frankly, it was running for probably 20 minutes, but I didn't realize it until all of a sudden your voice popped up and a little loud on something, and I said, oh. I said, I don't think I should be hearing that.
So you believe people may have heard you around you because of the way it was being broadcast, but you don't know specifically who they were. Do you have another question?
Yeah, one more question.
Go ahead, you can ask the question yourself, Mr. Claypool. Go ahead.
Thank you. Did you overhear any of the other jurors in the hallway discussing anything about what Judge Kelly said?
No. I don't think any of them realized what it was, frankly.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. You are discharged.
Thank you so much.
You threw me off my game, but I think we're at 7-7 now. Is that right? Hardship?
Yes.
Juror 7-7.
That microphone right there, is it Ms. Trong? I'm not sure I pronounced that. Microphone right there is fine. Counsel, you may be seated. I think you indicated that you had a hardship you wanted to talk to me about. Is that right?
Yeah.
Can you tell me about that?
Well, I'm self-employed, so I only work for myself, and I don't think I can do it.
Okay, what do you do?
I'm a nail technician.
Okay, so you basically work for clients, you get paid by what you do?
Yeah.
Okay. So you don't get paid a salary, it's basically whatever you do in terms of work, you get compensated and that's it. May sound like a silly question, but if you are not able to work 5 to 7 days, in other words, if you're on jury duty here and you are not able to earn that income, would that be a significant financial hardship for you?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to release you from jury service this case based on financial hardship. You will not need to come back tomorrow or any other time. Please go to the first floor, turn in your juror badge, and you're discharged. Do not discuss anything with the other potential jurors.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. About 7-9 is next.
Juror 7-9.
Ms. Jensen? You can come right up here to this microphone right here, just the one that's standing there. Counsel, you may be seated. All right, ma'am, I think you indicated you thought you knew something about the case. Is that right?
Yes, it's been reported in the Palm Beach Post. I think it was on TV. It's been It's been out there.
Okay. And you've both read about the case and seen or heard about the case, is that
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Is that recently, in the past, or both?
In the past.
In the past. Have
In
you
the past.
seen or read anything recently?
I thought I may have heard something on the TV this morning when I was getting ready, but I really wasn't paying attention.
And what do you recall that you may have seen or read in the past about the case?
About the case, I
Yeah.
remember seeing a picture of the defendant and reading the process by which I believe it was already tried and a
Okay.
verdict was reached.
Okay, so you believe you know that there was a previous trial and there was a verdict in the case?
Right.
Okay, and do you know what that verdict was?
I believe it was guilty.
Okay, ma'am, we're going to release you from jury service in this case. You're not going to have to come back tomorrow or any other time. Go downstairs, first floor, turn your juror badge in, you're discharged, don't have to come back. Please don't discuss anything about this case with any of the other potential jurors.
Right.
Right.
Judge, can we take one out of line? She doesn't panic. She has to go way out west to pick her kids up.
Sure.
9-2 it's going to be.
9-2. Don't want anybody else having panic attacks.
She has a hardship number 3. Thanks, you want to start with that.
I'll start with a hardship because it may not even get to the knowledge. It's Ms. Hanlon?
Jury 9-2.
Ms. Hanlon, just come right up to this microphone right here. I understand you've got some issues you have to talk to me about. Counsel, you may be seated. Let me start with yeah, right there, that's fine. You had indicated that you have a hardship. Can you tell me about that?
Well, I don't know if it qualifies for hardship, but I have an 8-year-old daughter that I have to pick up and from school, and I have nobody else. I don't have any, no spouse, I'm by myself. And I don't really deal with my neighbors or my friends all work, so I don't know if that's a hardship, but is a concern. Like right now I'm getting concerned too because it's starting to get later and later. I don't want to not be able to pick her up from school. I live way out west of town past the turnpike on Lake Worth Road.
Okay, let me, I guess we can deal with this a couple different ways. First of all, we're going to get you out of here now in time, one way or the other, to pick up your daughter, so that's okay for today. Going forward though, what time do you have to pick up your daughter?
Before 6.
Oh, before 6, okay.
Yes, and I know you said 5, but I just wanted to, I didn't know if some days it went past or 5:30, or if it went to 6, then I'm going to have a problem.
Okay, sometimes it goes a little, like usually we're pretty good about 5 o'clock. If we're able to get you out of here by 5 o'clock each night, you still have a hardship.
Well, no, that was just my concern.
That's your concern,
Yeah.
okay. So that's what you need to talk to me about.
Yes.
Well, let's deal with another issue, though. You also indicated that you believe you know something about the case.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, what do you believe you know about the case?
Well, all of it, because I remember when it happened and reading Palm Beach Post and seeing videos and seeing the news, everything, all of it.
Okay, so you've read about it. Have you seen things on television about it?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. And I think what you indicated is that's both back when the alleged events occurred and also, have you seen things currently?
Maybe a few days ago.
Okay. And have you reached any conclusions about the case based on what you've either read or heard?
Not really.
Okay, when you say not really, it sounds like there might be a little doubt there.
But yes, I'm going to be honest, there is a little bit of doubt.
Okay, so let's explore that doubt for just a minute. Okay. And let me explore it this way. One of the things obviously we're concerned about is whether or not you've reached any conclusions, opinions, or have any real preconceived notions at this point about whether or not Ms. Dippolito is guilty or not guilty in this case, based on what you have heard outside of the courtroom. That's our main concern. So when you talk about doubt, is that what do you have doubt about that?
I would say what you said, opinions. I have an opinion, and I have a preconceived notion, yes.
Okay, so you have an opinion, have a preconceived notion, and that preconceived notion or opinion is what?
Can I be totally honest here?
You must be totally honest here.
Good.
Not only can you, you must.
I didn't know what I could say and not say.
No, this is the perfect time for complete honesty.
I felt like she's guilty.
Okay, so you've reached that conclusion at this point before the case even starts, is
Yes.
that right? Okay. Counsel, any questions? Okay. All right, ma'am, you're going to be released from jury service in this case. You're not going to have to come back at all. All you have to do is go downstairs, jury assembly room, turn in that badge. Please do not discuss anything with the other jurors on the way out.
Absolutely not. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. I think we're back to 7:10, right?
Juror 710.
Mr. Murphy, you can come right up to this microphone right here, if you would. I think you, Counsel, maybe seated. I think you indicated that you thought you might know something about the case.
Yeah, I just remember, seeing it on the news and maybe on a news TV show a while back.
Do you recall when that was my question, do you recall when you saw it?
I don't think it was recently. It was, I think back, when it happened or thereabouts.
All right, so some time ago, not recently.
Right.
Do you recall what it is that you saw?
Yeah. Well, I remember, the story of somebody in Boynton Beach who was accused of having her, hiring an undercover cop to have her husband killed.
Do you recall seeing any videos with respect to the case?
I do recall videos. I don't recall exactly what it was, but I remember, seeing videos of it.
Okay, you can't recall what those videos were, though?
No, I honestly, I recall kind of, making jokes about it with my wife. It was kind of a running joke between us. It was, when are you going to do that to me type of thing, But I don't remember what it was.
All right. Let me ask this. Based on what you did see, have you reached any conclusions at this point about the case?
Honestly, I remember it being, pretty convincing, what I saw. But, like I said, it was a few years back, so I don't remember exactly what it was.
All right. You said you found it to be convincing. Let me follow up. Based on what you saw, did you reach opinions about or conclusions about whether Ms. Dippolito is guilty or not guilty in the case based on what you saw?
Yeah, I remember, thinking that she did it, honestly.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate your honesty. You're not going to have to come back. We're going to release you from jury service in this case.
Okay.
And so please don't discuss anything about the case with the other potential jurors on the way out. Simply go to the first floor, turn that juror badge in, and you're discharged.
All right. Thank you.
Juror 81.
Is it Mr. Carolini? If you can come forward to that mic right there, counsel, you may be seated. I believe you want to speak to me about a hardship, is that correct?
Yes.
Can you tell me about that?
I have finals coming up.
Are you a student?
Yes.
When are your finals?
This week and the week after.
Okay, where do you go to school?
PBSC.
Okay, so you have finals this week and also into next week?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so your concern is missing your finals?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to excuse you from hardship in this case. You will not have to come back. All you have to do is turn in your juror badge on the first floor where you began this morning. Please do not discuss anything about this case with any of the other potential jurors on the way out. You're discharged. Good luck on your exams.
Thank you.
Juror 83.
Counsel, you may be seated. Is it Ms. Muniz?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
It is and it isn't.
It is and it isn't. Okay, it's what we have listed, so why would it not be?
My name changed when I got divorced and they never changed it.
Okay, so it must be on your driver's license that way?
Yes, it
Okay, so how would you like to be called?
Lopez.
Ms. Lopez, okay, Ms. Lopez. All right, but Ms. Lopez, you indicated that you believe you have a hardship. Can you tell me about that?
I have a hardship as far as appointment. I'm a realtor and I have an active transaction going on. It should close on or before the 30th of December, but all contracts are time of the essence. So I have deadlines that I have to meet prior to closing.
Okay. With respect to your, I mean, brokers, they work at various hours, right? You can.
Correct.
You can work in the evening, you can work in the morning, you can work at lunch, you can do all those things, right?
Correct.
And so if you're able to work after hours and at other times when you're not in trial, could you attend to those matters if we needed you?
Some, yes. Most of them, yes. Some may have a deadline at the end of the day, but not all of them.
Okay. Ms. Lopez, what I'm going to do at this time is we'll keep this under advisement, so to speak, but at this point I'm going to ask you to come back on Monday, okay? And so you're going to be coming back 9:30 on Monday. You'll report downstairs, and you'll come up when they bring you up, okay?
Should I give you a copy of my license?
No, I believe you. I mean, you don't have to convince me what you want to say.
All right, thank you.
Hang on a minute. Hang on just a minute. Ms. Lopez, I did have one other question the attorneys reminded me of. When you were out in the hallway, were you able to hear anything that was going on in this courtroom?
Here? No.
I mean, could you hear what I was saying, questions I was asking,
Not at all.
responses that were given? You didn't hear anything? Okay.
No.
All right, thank you very much, ma'am.
You're
Thank you.
welcome. Have a great one. See you Monday.
Jury 8-4.
Ms. Malin, is it? If you could just come up to that microphone, counsel, you may be seated. You want to speak to me for two reasons. Number one, you did raise your hand that you thought you knew something about the case, and also you indicated you had a hardship. Tell me first what you believe you know about the case.
Just what I saw on the TV show.
And when did you see that?
Last year.
Okay. Have you seen anything recently about the case?
Just the news clip that just came out.
Was that this morning, yesterday? When did you see
I'm
that?
going to say yesterday.
Okay. And what do you recall seeing, either a year ago or yesterday?
Just the meeting with the undercover officer, the whole sting operation set up, and then, of course, her coming to the house and them telling her husband was dead.
Okay, so you saw a video of that. Okay.
Yes.
Based on what you have seen a year ago and also here recently, have you reached any opinions about the case?
I don't have an opinion about the case. There's probably things I don't know. They don't go all into it with the TV show. It's
Okay.
a TV show.
Have you reached any conclusions about the case?
No.
Have you reached any conclusions concerning the guilt or innocence of Ms. Dippolito as we sit here based on what you've seen?
No.
Okay, now if you are selected as a juror in this case, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to decide this case not based on what you may have seen outside of this courtroom, but you have to decide the case based on the evidence that's presented in this courtroom.
Yes, sir.
And if you were selected, what you'd have to do is you have to set all that aside that you may have seen or heard about the case and decide the case based solely on the evidence. The question is, can you do that?
I believe so.
Okay. Do you have any doubt about whether you can do that?
No.
All right. I'm going to let the attorneys ask a few follow-up questions. We'll start with the state. Okay. Mr. Claypool, do you have any questions? Go ahead.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Hi.
Did you have any conversations earlier today with a male person in the courthouse about the case?
No.
Did you speak to anybody today, a man who is familiar with the history of Dalia Dippolito's case?
Not that I'm aware of.
And did you hear anything out in the hallway?
No.
Talking about the case?
No.
Thank you.
I got a few more questions I was going to ask. There's also a hardship issue, but the question I was going to ask after the attorneys had completed their questioning had to do with whether you did hear anything in the hallway. Have you been able to hear, as you're waiting to come into the courtroom, anything that's been said by me or by anyone I'm asking questions of?
No.
Okay. But you also indicated you had a hardship, I believe. Is that correct?
That is.
Can you tell me what that hardship is?
I'm moving out of the state at the end of the month. We're in the process of packing and moving.
Well, when you say the end of the month, you're talking about the end of December.
Right.
Okay. I guess, can you be a little more specific? You won't be here until the end of December, believe me.
We'll be here until the 30th.
No, but I mean, you won't be in trial until the end of December. I mean, you'll be in trial if you're selected as a juror in this case through next week, maybe into a couple of days the following week, but you won't be here all the way through December. Is that going to cause you some issue with getting ready to move if you're here during the day?
No, it'll put more packing on my husband, but I'm okay with that.
Okay. All right. So is that the only hardship you had then?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you didn't hear anything that went on in the courtroom when you were outside in the hallway?
No.
Okay. All right. We're going to ask you to come back 9:30 on Monday. Sure. Okay, ma'am. You can come back 9:30 on Monday, not tomorrow, but Monday morning, 9:30. When you come here, you go to the first floor of the jury assembly room where we started. You sign in. They'll bring you up when we're ready for you. Please do not discuss the case with anyone. Do not do any research, and importantly, do not listen to or read any news accounts of the trial between now and Monday, okay?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Juror 85.
Hello.
Hello, if you can just go to that microphone. Help me with the pronunciation of your name.
Ionut Cătălin Benghia.
Okay. You indicated you had a hardship, is that correct?
Yes, I have a few problems and I want to share with you.
Okay.
One of them is my mom had a heart failure a few weeks ago and I have to go with her next week and the following week the doctor, a few appointments. She's not in a very good health situation. So she came to visit from Romania and she doesn't speak any English and I have to go with her to the doctor.
Okay. Were there other issues that you want to raise?
I have to pick up my kid from school at 6 o'clock, but I guess this one is not going to be a very important one. And then my English is not very good and I don't know if I can help 100% with the case.
All right, so
I mean, some terms I don't understand 100%.
So sometimes you're not able to understand. Okay.
Not 100%, maybe 90%, let's say.
Okay. On that issue, any questions? Okay. We're going to go ahead and release you for hardship in the case. You're not going to need to come back either tomorrow or in the future. Simply go to the first floor, turn in your juror badge, and you're released. Please don't discuss anything about the case with the other potential jurors on the way out.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Juror 86.
Okay, Ms. Rotenberg, if you could just come up to that microphone right there. Counsel, you may be seated. You raised two issues with us. First, you said you thought you knew something about the case and also you believed you had a hardship. Let me talk to you about what you believe you may know about the case. Can you tell me what you think you know about the case?
Well, I know it was in 2009. I know 2011 there was a conviction for 20 years, but now they're appealing it because of thinking that she was entrapped by the police department.
Any questions? Okay. We're going to go ahead and release you from jury service in this case. You're not going to need to come back. All you have to do is go downstairs to the jury assembly room, you turn that juror badge in. Please do not discuss anything about this case with any of the other potential jurors.
Okay.
Okay, you're discharged.
Thank you.
We're discharging anyway. Yeah, no, I'll just do it. You can go. No, I just can't. Perhaps, but I don't think it's necessary. Mr. Iglesias?
Iglesias, yes, sir.
Okay, Iglesias. You indicated, I believe, that you had a hardship. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Can you tell me about that hardship?
I own my own business and got 10 people depending on me. So I do programming the job for my guys, programming the work involved with other people depending on me. I have a lot of responsibility because I'm running a large corporation.
Okay, so do you have people in management positions?
You see, that's me.
Okay, but do you have assistants, anyone that helps you along those lines?
No, sir.
Okay, how many employees do you have?
10.
10. And so when you're on vacation, who's in charge? Who does the things that you're doing when you're on vacation?
Phone.
Okay, and if you're able to, for example, you're not allowed to do any research with respect to this case or have any discussions about this case.
I'm a very obedient person.
I'm sorry?
You say not to do it, I'm not doing it.
No, I understand that, but what I'm saying is that you are free on a break, on lunch or in the morning before you come in, or on an afternoon break. You are at that time able to use your phone for other matters, not about this case, but you can, for example, call work, you could do things like that.
For example, sir, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Go ahead.
For example, I was here today on my break. I have a phone call from my office. I'm supposed to pull permits. I'm supposed to bid jobs. I'm supposed to do all kind of stuff like that. When I'm involved here, I wish I'd be retired and able to serve, like you say. In my case, it's really hardship.
Is there anyone else who can do it for you in your company?
No, sir.
Okay. I'm going to release you for hardship in this case. You will not have to come back. Please turn your juror badge in downstairs. Do not discuss anything about this case with the other jurors on the way.
No, sir. Thank you.
All right.
Juror 8A.
Mr. Santa Cruz, if you can step up to that microphone right there, please. Counsel may be seated. All right, Mr. Santa Cruz, I believe you indicated that you thought you knew something about the case. Is that right?
Yes, that's right, sir.
And what do you believe you know about the case?
Well, I was watching in the news since the first time that it started, where they showed the defendant hugging the police guy that supposedly she hired for killing her husband. And I followed later that she was sentenced to 20 years. And after all that, now that they're going to start, that she won the appeal, and then that she's going to start a new trial, which I believe is this one.
Okay. Thank you very much. We're going to excuse you from jury service in this case. You're not going to have to come back. So all you have to do is go downstairs, turn your juror badge in. Please do not discuss anything about this case or what you think you know about this case with any of the other potential jurors. But you are excused from jury duty. Thank you.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Juror 8-9.
Mr. Gonzalez, just come right up to that microphone right there if you could. Counsel, you may be seated. You indicated that you thought you knew something about the case. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Can you tell me what you believe you know about the case?
Just basically what I saw on the show. I believe you mentioned cops.
Did you see the show Cops?
Yes, I did.
You believe you saw this particular case reported on Cops?
Yes.
Okay. And did you see, other than Cops, did you see any other type of coverage of the case?
Could have been Snapped or something else. I can't recall the name of the show, but I've seen several of Dippolito's shows. on TV.
Okay, so you've seen it not just on the television show Cops, but from other places, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Based on what you've seen, have you reached any opinions about the case?
Yes, I have.
Okay, and what is that opinion?
I believe she's guilty.
Okay. Counsel? Okay, sir, we're going to go ahead and release you from jury service in this case. You will not have to come back. Simply turn in your juror badge on the first floor where you started. Please do not discuss anything about or related to this case with any of the other potential jurors.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Juror 810.
Yeah, Ms. Donnelly, if you could just come to that microphone we've got standing there, and counsel, you may be seated. Ms. Donnelly, I think you indicated that you may know something about the case. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay. What do you believe you know about the case?
I believe I know that it happened like a few years ago, and that she was prosecuted for it, right?
Well, I'm asking what you believe you know. Okay, I'm not going to fill in the blanks for you, but I mean, what do you think you know from what you heard?
I think I know that that she was found guilty, right?
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. What we're going to do is we're going to release you from jury service in this case. You're not going to have to come back tomorrow.
Okay.
Please don't discuss anything with the other potential jurors on your way out. All you have to do is go to the first floor and turn that jury badge in. We do appreciate your patience with us today.
And I just leave around it?
The jury badge you can give to downstairs, first floor where you started. Just go down there on your way out of the building, give that to them, and then you're discharged. Just don't talk with anyone on the way out about the case.
Juror 91.
Ms. Dormer, if you could just go right to that microphone there. We're just using that stand-up mic. Counsel, you may be seated. You indicated that you had a hardship. Is that right?
Yes.
And can you tell me about that?
Yes, for the past 5 years, I've been suffering from severe anxiety and panic disorders. And I'm currently medicated for it right now.
Okay, so you get very nervous and panicky in settings like this?
Like this, and even if I'm sitting in a movie theater, like I have a panic attack and I have to leave.
Okay, you're on medication for it?
Yep, Lexapro.
With the medication, are you basically under control, or do you still have issues?
I still have issues.
Do you think by sitting on a jury that those issues are going to manifest themselves, that you're going to have problems sitting, listening to the evidence?
I honestly think so, because my panic attacks are like erratic. They come at any time, so that's the only thing that I'm worried about.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and excuse you for medical hardship from this case. You will not have to come back tomorrow. All you have to do is go to the first floor, turn in that juror badge. Do not discuss anything with the other potential jurors on the way out.
Okay, thank you so much.
Juror 93.
All right, Ms. Reed, if you could just come up to this standing microphone right there. And then, counsel, you may be seated. And Ms. Reed, you indicated you thought you knew something about the case. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, what do you believe you know about the case?
Well, just I remember seeing it on TV when it happened. That's about it.
Okay, and what do you recall seeing on TV?
Just what you had said in your summary today, really.
You recall seeing any videos or any type of thing that occurred at the time of the alleged event?
No, I usually just listen to it.
Okay. Was that, let me just give a timing here, was that recent or sometime in the past?
Oh, years ago.
Okay. Now, based on what you saw and what you heard, or even what you may have read, have you reached any conclusions about the case?
I haven't really thought about it.
So have you reached, so would that be no, you've not reached any conclusions?
No, I have not.
Okay. Do you have any preconceived notions about the case?
No.
Have you reached any conclusions? Do you have any opinions or any preconceived notions concerning the guilt or innocence of Ms. Dippolito as we sit here?
No.
Are you able to set aside anything you may have heard in the past, not consider that, decide this case based solely on the evidence that's presented in this courtroom and the legal instructions I give you in this case?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, when I say I believe so, there's a little bit of ambiguity there, so I need to pick on you just a little bit more and see if I can drill down on
I think
that.
I said, I believe so, yes.
Okay, yes. So is that you can do that?
Yes.
Yes, okay. I know it's a form of speech. A lot of people say, I believe so, yes, I think so, that kind of thing. And it just, when the lawyers hear those words, their ears kind of go up. So you can do that, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm going to give the attorneys an opportunity to ask you some questions.
Sure.
Mr. Claypool?
Good afternoon. Good evening.
Do you think that Ms. Dippolito may be guilty before this trial even started?
To be honest with you, I didn't think about it.
What do you mean?
I mean, it's not that I think about it. I mean,
You're aware of the case, right?
I mean, I know it from what the judge had said this morning, refreshed me on what I had heard years ago.
Okay. Had you formed any opinions years ago about Ms. Dippolito's
No.
innocence or guilt?
No, sir.
Have you talked to anybody about it?
No, sir.
Have you gone on the internet at any point and Googled it and researched it?
No, I've never Googled it. It might have been on a Facebook thing, but I don't remember reading it.
What did you see on Facebook?
I just said, I don't remember reading anything, but it may have been, on somebody's page or something at one point. But I don't believe I read it.
Okay, ma'am, at this time, I want to ask you another question. And that question is, do you recall during the course of the day, as you're sitting here waiting to come back into the courtroom, and I'm speaking with people, do you recall hearing anything that was going on in this courtroom as you were waiting outside?
The only thing was when people were leaving now when we were waiting, they'd say, goodbye, I'm done. And then they walked out.
Goodbye, I'm done. Did they say anything else about
Oh,
this?
no.
Okay.
There was nothing about what they were asked or anything.
Okay. Other than people coming out of the courtroom saying goodbye, during the course of the day, as I'm in here speaking with people just like you, did you hear anything being broadcast out into the hallway? In other words, did you hear anything I was saying to these people or they were saying to me?
No, sir.
Okay. All right, ma'am, we're going to ask you to come back at 9:30 on Monday. Not tomorrow, but Monday. So 9:30 Monday. You're going to report on the first floor jury assembly room where you started. They'll bring you up when we're ready for you.
Okay.
Please do not discuss the case with anyone. Do not do any research with respect to this case.
Yes, sir.
Do not listen to or read any news accounts of this trial. With
Yes,
that
sir.
said, we're going to let you go. We'll see you back here on Monday morning.
Have a nice week. Oh, did you want to ask me?
No, they're standing for your benefit as you leave.
Oh,
That's all.
thank you.
It's just a showing of respect.
Thank you. Have a nice weekend.
You're 9-4. You're going to go right to that microphone.
Okay, Mr. Brooks, if you could come up to that microphone right there.
Right here?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Mr. Brooks, you indicated you thought you knew something about the case. Is that correct?
Correct.
Can you tell me what you believe you know about the case?
I do know the defendant's name is Dalia Dippolito, and she was already accused, or she was tried and convicted of trying to murder her husband.
Okay. All right, at this time, what we're going to do is we're going to release you from jury service in this case. You're not going to have to come back tomorrow or otherwise with respect to this case. All I need you to do is to go downstairs, turn in your juror badge on the first floor. Please do not discuss anything relating to this case with any of the other potential jurors. Thank you.
Thank you.
Need you? What other thing? No.
You're 9-6.
No, you're good. Ms. Roden, good afternoon. I almost said morning again. It's a long
Feels
time
like
from morning. Well, it doesn't feel like morning probably to you or anyone else in this room. Ms. Roden, you indicated that you believed you knew something about the case. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, what do you believe you know about the case?
I think I heard of it on the news.
On the news. And when did you hear about it on the news?
Years ago.
Years ago. Have you heard anything recently on the news about the case?
No.
When you say news, are you referring to television, printed press, the paper, or what are you referring to?
Television. I'm not a TV person, but I saw it on television. I think at work.
You saw it on television. Okay. Do you recall specifically what you saw? Did you see any videos? What did you see?
No videos.
Okay. Do you recall anything about what was reported about the case?
No.
Okay. Did you reach any opinions or conclusions about the case based on what you heard or read?
No, it's not something that I followed or kept up with. So.
You just heard of the case. That's
yeah,
it. Okay.
I was at work. It was something on the TV at work, and.
Okay. Have you reached any conclusions about whether Ms. Dippolito is guilty or not guilty in this case?
No.
Do you have any preconceived notions about this case based on what you may have heard or read about the case?
No.
If you're chosen as a juror in this case, you're going to have to decide this case based solely on the evidence that's presented here in this courtroom and the law that I instruct you on. Can you do that and not rely in any way upon anything that you may have heard or read in the past?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Let me give the attorneys an opportunity to ask questions. State. Ms. Claypool?
Yes.
Did any of the folks at work, when they saw the news broadcast about Ms. Dippolito, talk about it?
No. Not that I know of. My lunch is spent on the Intracoastal by myself. So I don't do group lunch.
So you didn't overhear anybody at work saying anything about whether they felt that Ms. Dippolito was innocent?
No.
One more question for you before I let you go.
Yes.
As you've been waiting very patiently outside there in that hallway for us all day, have you been able to hear anything that's been going on in this courtroom? In other words, has anything been broadcast out there so you could hear it?
I think the other courtroom, there was some audio from the other courtroom, but we thought it was something going on in that courtroom. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, there's a courtroom right next door. They all have audio equipment.
Right.
But really, my question is, did you hear me asking? Obviously, you've heard my voice, unfortunately, all day or most of the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Did you hear my voice out there?
I don't know whose voice it was because a lot of people are outside talking, but I'm sure that the courtroom down, I thought it was someone in there, like it was something going on in that courtroom, but I don't know.
Like a commotion or something that was going on? Or
Oh, it was a commotion because people were coming out screaming and crying.
Oh, okay. So there was an incident next door with the deputies kind of going in and out. And
Yeah.
Okay. Other than that, did you hear anything that was being said in this courtroom that you could identify as me asking questions or someone else responding to those questions?
Not specifically, no.
Well, when you say not specifically, generally, I mean, did you hear anything that you could identify as being attached to this courtroom and me?
No.
Okay, so you don't recall hearing me ask any questions, you don't recall anyone responding to those questions?
I recall hearing things from over there, yes.
The commotion, but not
Yes.
from here?
No.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Okay.
You have one, hold on just a minute, we may have some follow-up. Mr. Claypool, go ahead if you want.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Roden, did you overhear any of the prospective jurors in the hallway talking about the case at all?
No.
Did you hear any of the prospective jurors in the hallway talking about, gee, I can hear Judge Kelly in the courtroom, something to that effect?
Something was going on where they told a deputy down here in this other courtroom, and a few people ran down there. So whatever that was, I didn't run over there to figure it out. No problem.
Thank you. So what we're going to do, Ms. Roden, we're going to see you back here, not tomorrow, but 9:30 on Monday morning. When you come here on Monday, what you do is you check in on the first floor of the jury assembly room where you started.
Right.
You'll sign in. You'll stay there till we send somebody for you, okay?
Okay.
So we'll see you Monday.
Okay.
Juror 9-7.
Okay, Ms. Reed, if you could come up to this microphone right here. Ms. Reed, you indicated that you had a hardship. Counsel may be seated, I'm sorry. You indicated that you had a hardship, is that correct?
Yes.
Can you tell me about that?
I'm a full-time student in college, and I have exams coming up.
Okay, so we've had a couple of students with exams coming. You got exams next week?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We're going to excuse you for hardship in this case, so you can take your exams. Good luck. All you have to do is go downstairs, turn in your juror badge. Do not discuss anything with the other potential jurors on the way out. Good luck on your tests.
All right, thank you.
Next juror also knows the attorneyship.
I'm sorry, what?
Juror 9-8.
Juror also knows the attorneyship.
Right. Dutton Mitchell, yeah. All right, counsel may be seated. Is it Ms. Dutton Mitchell?
Yes.
Okay. Couple things. You indicated that you knew some of the attorneys. Is that right?
No, I was answering about recognizing or knowing, and I did recognize the defense attorneys and the defendant.
Okay. All
just
right.
from TV.
Well, that's what I want to talk to you about. Okay. So you recognize them from television. Tell me what you believe you may know about the case from what you have viewed.
I think this is a second trial. I can recall seeing the video of the when the officers told the defendant that the husband was dead, although he was not really dead. I do remember that video.
Okay. Ms. Laurie? Okay. All right, ma'am, we're going to go ahead and excuse you from jury service in this case. You're not going to have to come back. All you're going to have to do is go downstairs to the jury assembly room, turn in that juror badge. Please don't discuss anything with the other jurors, but you're excused with our thanks and appreciation for your patience here today.
All right, thank you.
Brianna, at what point are they going to close down there and I can't send people down? Yeah, because if they're closing, I'm going to have Neil collect up the badges as they go out, so they don't go down there and find a closed door.
Juror 9-9.
They close early, though, sometimes. Ms. O'Brien, if you can go to that microphone right there, please. All right, counsel may be seated. Ms. O'Brien, you actually raised a couple issues. One, you think you know something about the case. Second, you also said you may have a hardship. So let me talk to you first about what you believe you know about the case. What do you think you know about the case?
I just remember it from the news, and I know you mentioned in the statement about it being on cops. I don't usually watch that, but I do watch a lot of television. So I remember seeing, some video of when the defendant was told about her husband being killed, and maybe some video of the interrogation, perhaps, or some things like that. I just remember that kind of stuff.
Okay, and have you seen anything or read anything recently?
No.
Okay, so this was all in the past.
Yes.
Based on what you saw, have you reached any conclusions about the case?
Maybe.
Okay, maybe I got to explore. Do you have it? Well, I can ask the question, I guess, in a multitude of ways, but what we need to know, here's what we need to know. Based on what you have seen or read in the past, have you reached any conclusions? Do you have any preconceived notions? Do you have any opinions about the case now based on what you have read or heard?
I would say yes. I definitely had some preconceived notions.
Okay, and can you tell me what those preconceived notions are?
I pretty much bought into, if you want to say, the idea that the police officer that was involved was, telling the truth, because that's kind of, I've had a lot of police officers in my life, and so I just kind of assumed that.
Let me ask it this way. So yes. Then, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but if you reached a preconceived notion about the guilt or innocence of Ms. Dippolito based on what you saw?
I would perceive guilt.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right, ma'am, we're going to go ahead and release you from this case. You're not going to have to come back. Okay. Please don't discuss anything with the other jurors on your way out. All you have to do is, Brianna, are we still okay sending them down or not? I'm asking the clerk whether if they close downstairs. I want to make sure we're okay. Okay, do me a favor. You're the first to have to do this because they're closing downstairs.
Okay.
Can you just take that badge off and put it right on that table for me?
Okay, with everything in it, or no?
Yeah.
Take them inside out?
No, just leave it right there. Everything together, just leave it right there. You don't have to go to the first floor. Well, you have to go to the first floor to get out of the building, but you don't have to go down there to check in or check out. So you're released. Just don't discuss anything with the other jurors on the way out.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Juror 10-1.
Counsel, you may be seated. I'm going to ask you to help me with your last name. If you say your name for me?
Inabnet.
Inabnet. It's not really that difficult, but when I look at it on paper, I get tongue-tied. You indicated that you have a hardship. Is that correct?
No, I do not.
Oh, you know about it. Okay, I put an H instead of a K. So you know something about the case.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
You believe you know something about the case. What do you believe you know about the case?
Just from the media, I followed it when it first occurred.
Okay, so when you say from the media, did you see things on the television about it?
Yeah, Channel 5, and I also watched the Cops series on it.
Okay, so you watched Cops, Channel 5. Did you also read things in the paper about the case?
Not really.
Okay. Have you read or seen anything recently about the case?
Just this morning that they were picking the jury.
Okay. Now, based on what you saw, either in the past or recently, have you reached any conclusions about the case?
Not really.
Do you have any, based on what you saw the Cops episode, you saw news coverage of the case, do you have any opinions at this point about the case based on what you saw?
A little bit of opinion, but
Okay, well, we got to explore that when you have a little bit of an opinion. Here's what we're really getting at, okay? What we want to know is based on what you saw or read at any time, at this time, coming into the trial, do you have any preconceived notions about the case, any opinions about the case, or have reached any conclusions, even if they're tentative conclusions, any preliminary conclusions about the case based on what you've seen outside of this courtroom?
yes.
Okay, fair enough. And have any of those opinions or conclusions that you reached had anything to do with the guilt or innocence of Ms. Dippolito?
Yes.
Okay. So would it be fair to say that you've reached some conclusions about her guilt or innocence based on what you heard outside of the courtroom?
Yes.
Okay. All right, ma'am. What we're going to do at this time is we're going to go ahead and release you from jury service in this case. You're not going to have to come back. I do not want you to discuss anything with the other potential jurors on the way out. Because they're closed downstairs, what I need you to do is that juror badge you're wearing, just unclip it and leave it right there on the table. Mr. Claypool, do you have something you needed to? As long as you don't mind. Very qualified to handle it, okay. Go ahead, Mr. Claypool. You're excused, ma'am. I'm sorry. We're having our own little conversation up here. That's fine. You're excused. Appreciate your patience.
Juror 10-2.
Is it Ms. Leto? Am I close on that? Leto. Okay. Counsel, you may be seated. Ms. Leto, you indicated that you had a hardship. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell me about that?
I actually have a medical condition with my stomach. I'm in the process of going through procedures to find out if I have Crohn's. It's actually pretty severe, and it would be probably very disruptive sitting through a trial.
Difficult for you to sit through?
Yeah.
Okay. For a medical hardship, I'm going to go ahead and release you from service in this case. Okay. You will not need to come back tomorrow or otherwise. All you have to do is that juror badge you're wearing, if you'll leave it on the table right there so we can collect it up. Please don't discuss anything with the other potential jurors on the way out. Appreciate your patience. You're discharged.
Thank you.
Juror 10-3.
Ms. Matthews, if you can come right up to that microphone right there. Right here? Yeah, right there. Just stand there. Counsel, you may be seated. I think you wanted to speak to me about a hardship, is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor. In light of the fact that you said the trial would be next week and going into the following week, on December 10th, I go back to New York. I'm a cancer survivor. I have my radiologist appointment.
All right, so you're going back on the 10th, which would be, what is that, Saturday?
Saturday, December 10th.
All right, so if the trial went past that, you'd have a problem, is that right?
Yes, I wouldn't be here for the duration.
Okay, and you've got tickets ready to go, and
I have, yes, I have proof. I have my actually
you don't have to prove
email.
it to me. You swore to tell the truth earlier this morning.
Yes, tickets for December 10th.
All right, so what we're going to do is, because you have that hardship, we're going to release you from jury service in this case.
Thank you.
You do not need to come back. All you have to do is take that juror badge off and leave it on the table right there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because we...
Do I have to check in downstairs?
No, because they're closed.
Oh.
So that's why we're having you drop them off here. We're working later than they are, okay?
Very good. Okay. Thank you very much.
Appreciate your patience being here. Counsel, is the next one a no or hardship?
Knowledge.
That's what I thought. I've got two where I put an H but with the wrong color pen. Counsel may be seated. Is it Mr. Pellegrino? Oh, right there, right next to that microphone. You're good. You're fine. I think you indicated you knew something about the case?
Yes, at the time, several years ago.
Okay. Have you read anything or heard anything about the case recently?
Well, no, but I did discuss it with my nephew, who was who still is a lieutenant in the NYPD, and he kind of assured me that if they made an arrest.
Let me kind of jump to the bottom line then. Have you reached an opinion already based on what you've heard or based on the discussion you had with your nephew concerning the guilt or innocence of Ms. Dippolito before the trial starts?
Probably have, Your Honor.
Okay. Thank you very much. We're going to go ahead and release you from jury service in this case. You're not going to have to come back tomorrow or any other time. All you have to do is take that juror badge off and leave it on the table right there, because they're closed downstairs. So you don't have to go back downstairs to that jury assembly room where you started. You're discharged. You could just go ahead and leave and drive home. Please don't discuss anything with the other potential jurors that we have left to speak with, and we'll have a safe drive home.
Thank you.
Juror 10-6.
Ms. Laguerre? If you could come up to the microphone right there, please. Counsel, you may be seated. I believe you indicated that you had a hardship. Is that correct?
Correct.
And can you tell me what that hardship is?
Well, my brother is only 2 and he's on oxygen, so I have to get him ready in the morning for school and have to be there by 3 to pick him up.
Okay.
So,
and so you do this with your brother every day?
yes, since he was born. He was a premature baby born at 1 pound 8 ounces, so.
Okay. Is there anyone that could do that for you while you're in jury duty, or is this something that basically falls
It's only
upon
my
you?
sister and myself. My sister's in high school, so I work at night, so I can take care
So
of
you
him
can
during
take
the
care of
day.
your brother, okay. All right, we're going to release you from jury duty in this case for hardship. You're not going to have to come back. All I need you to do is that juror badge you're wearing, if you can leave it there on the table. The only other thing I'm going to ask of you is please do not discuss this case with any of the other potential jurors on the way out.
No problem.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Juror 10-9.
Ms. Rosley, you can stand right there at that microphone. Counsel, you may be seated. I believe you indicated that you thought you might know something about the case. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. Can you tell me what you believe you know about the case?
Just that what's been in the news that the defendant hired somebody to murder her husband. Maybe there was motive for money or real estate, from what I remember.
And when did you hear or read about this?
Well, I remember it from years ago when I was home with my first child, but it's been in the news for the past couple of days. It was coming
Okay,
up.
so but you heard about it and read about it both back when the
then.
alleged events occurred and also recently?
Yes, correct.
Okay. And can you remember specifically beyond what you just told me, what you recall seeing. Did you see any videos?
I don't remember specific videos. I don't even recognize her very well.
Okay. Based on what you either read or saw, have you reached any conclusions about the case?
I mean, I have my opinion, yes.
That's the next thing I was going to ask you. Do you have any opinions about the case based on what you have seen or read outside of the courtroom?
Yes.
Okay, and what is that opinion?
That she's guilty.
Okay, so you've reached that opinion based on what you've heard or read outside the courtroom?
Correct.
Before you came in here today? Okay. All right, man, we're going to go ahead and release you from jury service in this case. So you're not going to have to come back. All I need you to do is take that juror badge off, leave it on the table. Please do not discuss anything with any of the other potential jurors on your way out.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
And juror 1010. Go right there.
Counsel, you may be seated. Ms. Martin, I think there's a phrase, last but not least. Have you heard that before?
I have.
Okay, I suppose that might apply to you, and I do very much appreciate your patience. You're the last person we have to speak, and you had to be here all the way until 5 o'clock, and I do apologize for that.
Well, thank you for seeing me today.
Okay, well, that's the least we could do. But you indicated you had a hardship you had to discuss with me. Can you tell me what that hardship is, please?
I'm under treatment for macular degeneration, and I saw my doctor on Monday, and he gave me a laser treatment, but he feels that I need a shot in my eye on Monday. So I asked him if that was important, and he gave me a note saying
It's important.
it's important.
Okay. All right. For medical hardship, then I'm going to release you from jury service. In this case, you will not have to come back. We'll go ahead and make sure you make your appointment on Monday. All you're going to have to do at this point is, I don't suppose there's anybody out there to talk to, but I'm going to tell you not to speak with anyone else that is associated with the case on the way out.
Everybody is long gone.
I know. I apologize for that. The only other thing you need to do is that juror badge that you have there on you, if you can just leave it on the table for me.
And do you want the note from my doctor?
You've been sworn to tell the truth early this morning, and I trust that that's what you're doing, so I do not need any further proof.
Thank you.
Thank you, and good luck to you, ma'am, with your procedure. Okay. Who's in charge of that media room?
I don't know, Judge. Stick my head down.
Bring somebody in. No, Ms. Nibbs, she is coming back. While we're waiting on that, let's just talk logistics. Same process tomorrow. We've got another 100. We don't have 100. We got, what, 94 probably coming back. How many did I release earlier? Anyone count?
Total?
About 6 or 7, I think.
You mean that you released without?
When we were down there speaking to them in the jury assembly room, didn't I let?
More.
Yeah, so we probably maybe have 90 something coming tomorrow as opposed to 100. Whatever we have coming back, we have coming back, but it'll be the same procedure tomorrow.
Okay.
Hopefully not as long, but I can't guarantee that. So we're going to follow the same procedure.
Doors, a lot of companies in there.
Way too long.
Well, everyone will be here tomorrow, and so someone will be speaking to me tomorrow. Okay. I'm assuming people that are currently in the courtroom are affiliated with the media. Some of you may bear not responsibility, but may be connected in there. I'm going to make crystal clear tomorrow I'm dealing with media coverage already. That's my job. It's been covered. This is why it's going to take 3 days to pick a jury. That's all fine, but what I'm not going to tolerate is further, basically further tainting of jurors, because by virtue of the fact that we're allowing the media in here, they're hearing things that they shouldn't hear. I can instruct them not to listen to you guys, but I can't do that when they can hear you right out or hear me right outside the courtroom. So someone responsible for that room is going to, if not everyone, will be hearing that from me again tomorrow. But that's important. I'm not going to, I can't fight two battles. One, coverage that's already occurred, and then coverage as we're going through this. So that's important. Anything further from the attorney's perspective that we need to do this evening other than get some rest? And I'm hoping I have a voice tomorrow. Okay. Here's another thing you should be thinking about. Not for tomorrow, because these people are not coming back tomorrow. They're coming back Monday. I'm going to review my list, but each of you should review your list. We need to identify people that were asked to hang around today that could have been in that hallway when discussions were occurring in here, and they could have heard what was going on based on it being broadcast out of the media room. There's a finite group. Now there's a larger group that we let go this morning. I know how to deal with them. I'm going to deal with them all the same way, but that group is easily identifiable, or more easily identifiable, and I'll deal with them on Monday. But then you also have to identify with that subset where before we even knew what was happening, some people were being asked to come back. I don't think it's a very large group, because most people we let go. But there are people, and I know who they are, I think I know who they are, that we listened to what they had to say and still told them to come back. And so we want to make sure that everyone is queried about whether or not they heard anything in the hallway if they're coming back and they're potential jurors in the case. So kind of look at your notes. I know there's more of you to take notes while this is all going on than me. I'm trying to speak and do this at the same time, but I think I knew who they are, but we need to make sure we identify those people. Okay? Anything else we need to do this evening before we break? Either side? Ms. Dippolito, did you get back your box? Well, that's what she said was going to happen, but okay, so we need to get that for her. Don't leave the courthouse without that and then all of a sudden have law enforcement chasing after her. Okay, so if there's nothing further, we'll be in recess until tomorrow.